Hello my snacks, welcome back, my name is Jack. Many more situations I've come across of people being just blatant a-holes in their situation. Also a few near the end that I felt were interesting to get your opinions on. Am I the a-hole for refusing to go to my sister's wedding, knowing that it means most of our family won't attend? I, 40 female, am significantly older than my sister, 25 female. As such, after she was born, I was repeatedly looked over and parentified by my parents in favor of her. Examples of this include giving my old clothes and toys to her without my permission, rather than preserving them as a keepsake of my childhood. In short, my inner child has had to do a lot of healing over the years. I am low contact with my parents and sister, but apparently she is engaged and wants me to be a part of the wedding party. Now, I am not comfortable around children of any age. It is part of my trauma. Being around them for me comes with a sense of responsibility that reminds me of the neglect I suffered at the hands of my family. My sister knows this, so I assumed with her asking me to be in the wedding that the wedding would be child-free. Well, during a discussion, she mentioned her fiancé's best friend's daughter would be serving as flower girl and our cousin's son would be ring bearer. I reminded her that I would not be comfortable around children and expressed my disappointment that she would invite me to be in a wedding that is not child-free. She looked sad for a second and told me that there were many young children and families that are close to her and her fiancé, and the day would feel incomplete without them. And if I really wasn't comfortable around children to that extent, she would understand if I am unable to attend. Yeah, sounds fair. Clearly this is an environment you would not be comfortable in. It's just you that's the problem here. You like being low contact with this family. You clearly would like to step down, sure. I was shocked that she would uninvite me in the favor of random kids, and it reminded me of being thrown aside in favor of her when we were young, so I left to collect myself. I attempted to ask my parents to talk some sense into her, but surprise, surprise, they took her side. On her wedding? Gosh! At this point, I was deeply hurt and needed an outlet, so I did something that might make me the a-hole. I am friends with some other family members on Facebook, and I made a post about how my sister was kicking me out of the wedding and that my parents were taking her side, all because of the trauma that they contributed to themselves. I didn't go into detail because I didn't think it was anyone else's business. I just wanted to vent. Now, people are apparently refusing to go to my sister's wedding unless I am reinstated as part of the wedding. She and my parents are begging me to come, but still refusing to budge on the children being there, so it doesn't make much of a difference to me. I do feel bad, though, because I didn't know that our family would refuse to come, but I cannot go to an event that has that many children running around or retract my statement because I don't want the family to think I lied. Am I the a-hole for refusing to go? Now, obviously, the first thing to point out here is how OP is Yatar because the parents are giving the sister hand-me-downs. Not parentification, it's economics. You didn't lose your childhood because your sister wore your old sweatshirt or played in your old playpen. One could easily turn things around, and your sister could complain that she was treated worse because while her older sister got all her things new, she had to make do with 15-year-old leftovers. Blasting her all over social media, deliberately omitting details so that she would look like the villain is the true cherry on the cake. And my sister wanted children as flower girl and ring bearer for her wedding, as is customary for almost every Western-style wedding. I am gutted that she would dare to do this because I once babysat her as a teenager, which is also pretty standard. It truly is impressive how someone can twist the state of reality around them. I perceive this must be Wanda from the Marvel Universe. For 15 years, Opie has been hoarding her stuff, and when her parents reasonably ask for them for their young child to save money, she's now neglected. Didn't seem like the parents asked her to care for her sister. But her parents should have had them all preserved in amber as keepsakes of her childhood. Her family are just the worst. Doesn't help when people also say, honestly, you can see why her parents might prefer the other kid more. But hey, in good news, despite how they came across in the original post, they came back with an edit which seems they're capable of reflection. For those of you suggesting therapy, I am in therapy. My therapist is incredible and helps me realize how heavily my past has affected me. I have yet to discuss the Facebook post with her, but we'll see what she has to say. Scratch that, never mind. She's just proven that despite therapy, she is still, at this point, basically a narcissist. I don't care if that word gets thrown around a lot on the internet, it's valid here. Over to someone who fled the internet less than a day after posting. Am I the a-hole for ignoring my husband on his trip? My husband is currently on an extremely luxurious trip with his family. They haven't all been together in years. The reason behind this trip was that his mum is sick, and nothing terminal, and they have all thought they would meet up so that everyone can be around the mum. Now, I see that he and the rest of his brothers are going out to the fanciest restaurants, renting boats, shopping at top designer stores, going on all kinds of adventures on this trip. This trip was supposed to be about seeing his mum, and it's turned into the trip of a lifetime. Since he landed, he has only called me 4 times. He's been on this trip for the past 5 days. I only answered once, and now truly don't want to hear anything about him or his trip, so I haven't called back. I can't even send him good mornings or good night texts. He stopped texting me a few days ago, and will maybe just send a video with no caption once every 2 days. I just feel extremely abandoned and left out. I don't feel like his priority at all, and that he is prioritizing his family over me. He knows very, very well that I expected much more communication from him, as this is an ongoing issue when I travel to see my family. I've told him many times it hurts my feelings when he doesn't reach out when I'm away. He totally doesn't call or text if I'm seeing my family. Now note, we've been married for only 6 months, and this is the second trip he has taken without me. First was to go golf with friends. I just need to know if how I'm feeling is how others would feel. I honestly don't want the viewpoint of men, just the women, because somehow the existence of testicles outside of your body means you couldn't understand human experience. To be honest, I'm thinking of addressing it with him when he comes back and tell him his behavior was incredibly disappointing, and I can't trust a husband that doesn't care for his wife while he's away. An edit. No, I was not invited to this trip or asked to come. None of the sisters or brothers-in-law were invited either. Now, some people actually believe no a-holes here. Firstly, he's having fun. You're upset about that? But then also, you just need to do a better job communicating to him in advance of things like this. I mean, you're allowed to feel abandoned, but plenty of people would feel that calling 4 days out of 5 is more than enough communication. So unless he knows you need more, he probably isn't going to call more. Now, understandably, this got heavily downvoted because that just supports her being the a-hole then. As I agree with this comment. No, her feelings are real. Her feelings are not valid, though. She is experiencing emotions, she needs to reflect on them and deal with them. Also, she's sexist. Even getting this beautiful comment. Granny here, and happily married for 40 plus years. For all of those years, whenever husband calls me, I answer unless I'm in a meeting. Whenever I call my husband, he answers unless he's in a meeting. Calling once a day during a trip is reasonable. You are only hurting yourself when you don't answer his calls. You're the a-hole. Stop polling just the ladies on Reddit, and you call your husband and tell him you miss him, and you hope he is enjoying his trip. Yeah, it seems despite this woman's best efforts, just getting the ladies involved. A lot of women accusing her of being the a-hole. End of the day, seems that she's just jealous that her husband is having fun without her. Like, yes, let's highlight this. When you're away, it's his responsibility to contact you. But when he's away, it's also still his responsibility to contact you? That doesn't make sense. But what do I know? I don't have childbearing hips. Now for the irony of an evil stepmom wanting to go to Disneyland. Am I the a-hole for wanting to leave my stepsons behind for a trip to Disney? I'm 38 female and my husband 40 male have 3 biological sons, 4, 6, and 9 together. I also have 2 stepsons my husband had with a previous marriage, 13 and 16. My stepsons live with us full-time. They have for the last 9 years. Their mother is not in their lives, nor is any of her family. My stepsons were abandoned by their mother when they were little while my husband was deployed. She left them with friends and never came back for them. When we found this out, we immediately went for custody and won. The friends they were left with still keep in contact with them and have taken them to Disney a few times before with them. They also get sent gifts throughout the years that my younger children do not get, as well as being on other trips my children haven't had the opportunity to go on. Now, we have never been able to afford to go on a vacation to Disneyland as a family. Am I the a-hole for thinking it would be okay to take just my 3 biological children to Disney and leave my stepsons with their other family? The 16-year-old wouldn't care much about Disney. The 13-year-old would like to go, but we would never be able to afford the trip with all 7 of us. Now, a few of my friends have said this to think it's horrible of me. I just don't understand. I feel like it's selfish of my older boys to not want their siblings to enjoy Disney like they have. My younger boys will never get the opportunity to go because we cannot afford to pay for all 7 of us to go. I think it's so unfair for my younger boys to never get the experience when their older brothers have both been able to go with their other family. Look, I don't mean to shame child rearing, but if you can't afford that many kids...
Don't have that many kids?
I'm sorry, but you don't work in the stock market. You don't get to be bailed out now because your investments are now draining your money. But hey, congrats to the OP, because it seems they've finally broken someone. You know what? It may be time that I left this sub. The burning rage that I feel for people like you is really starting to affect my blood pressure. It's despicable the way you think. Oh, your kids have never been to Disney? Too frickin' bad. These other kids don't have a mother. I'd say that's the bigger tragedy. Get your head out of your hindquarters. Like, don't even ask me what I think of fathers like your husband who subject their kids to their deplorably selfish wives and their do-over families. Ain't a good look, lady. Yata! I mean, hey, if this mother really wants her biological children to get to enjoy all the same experiences the stepchildren got to, why not drop your 3 bio kids off to your friends and then run away? You know, since the stepkids have had such better opportunities than them.
My husband had 2 sons, and we chose to have 3 more, but we can't afford 5 kids, so we need to discard some of them. My vote is to discard his kids.
Perfect outro to this. OP, they already have enough evil stepmothers in Disneyland. They don't need you to. Am I the a-hole for telling my stepdaughter's bio mother that I earned the right to be involved? I'm 33 female. I have been married to my husband, 39, for 11 years. My stepdaughter, who is now 12, was 1 when we met. Custody was a nightmare after my husband's divorce, and it was still ongoing when I met him. My stepdaughter's biological mother was hell-bent on the fact that he should never be allowed to see her, and made several false allegations during court. Currently, my stepdaughter stays with us 2 weekends each month, as well as a few days during school breaks and 2 weeks in the summer. Due to the accusations, it took several court proceedings and documentation of pretty much every aspect of my husband's life for it to be granted. Her biological mother has sole custody of her and has made it very difficult for either my husband or I to be involved in her life. She never asks my husband or I for our input or opinion, and when we do have a chance to give it, she ignores it and makes decisions regarding her completely on her own. My husband told me it bothers him, but he doesn't want to go through court again as it was a nightmare last time. Before Christmas, my stepdaughter's school had parent-teacher conferences, and my husband attended. When he came home, he told me that her teacher told them she hadn't been paying attention during class and was getting really low scores. He said her biological mother was asking the teacher about setting up a 504 plan, and he and I agreed it wasn't necessary, but what was particularly upsetting was that this was the first he heard of it, which sadly isn't surprising. It came up again while I was picking my stepdaughter up for the weekend. My husband had to work late that night, so he wasn't able to. When I got there, I asked her biological mother if I could talk to her, and she rolled her eyes and me, but did agree to talk. I told her that I thought the 504 plan was unnecessary, and she immediately got defensive and said she didn't want to hear it. She said it wasn't my place, and I told her that I've been a parental figure in her life since she was 1, and that I put in the effort and earned the right to be involved. I also told her that she should have asked my husband what he thought before she started talking to her teachers about it. She asked why, and told me that he was basically a stranger to her, before she started saying that she didn't want her daughter to see us arguing. After that, I took my stepdaughter and left. The next morning, I was talking about it with my husband. My stepdaughter seemed upset the rest of the day, which makes me worried that she had overheard our argument. I feel like I got pretty heated and said a lot of things I didn't mean, so am I the a-hole? So what's interesting to me is that this person's getting blasted because they tend to this child 4 days a month, and that makes them think that earns them the right to have as equal say over this child's life as the actual mother. But according to this whole situation, this was something the mother herself enforced. They didn't choose to only have 4 days of the daughter in their lives. I just personally don't feel like that warrants to be giving them smack about this. Yes, OP wants to argue about false allegations, but it's also fair to say that, well, regardless of if you think they're false or not, the judge determined that your husband was not responsible enough to have custody of or make decisions for his daughter. I know it's common to argue that family court system is absolutely brutal to fathers, but I've personally rarely come across a case where even in the arguably unfair circumstances, a father has been limited so much to seeing their child like this. I mean, something tells me that even if these allegations were false and that the mother
mother was just as much of a problem as the dad is, to be barred so much from your own child, there's got to be some other things the OP is hiding about her man. Doesn't help either when some people do some math calculation and find out here that, oh, so they've been married 11 years. Stepdaughter is 12. Methinks OP was the affair partner. But now, okay, people argue that OP said she wasn't, so I don't think we need to just assume that. But of course, by the way she's defending this man, it seems like she's also wanted to say, oh, the marriage was basically over, so he wasn't cheating. But I'll leave that assumption up to you. After all, as this comment points out, it is possible, and normal, that OP has fuzzed some of the facts to make it less identifiable to the people they know. Ultimately, yeah, which side do you sway towards? Do you think it's ultimately the biomother's fault for all of this, for trying to alienate the father and ultimately succeeding in it, forcing the father and you to be almost completely, out of this daughter's life and further estranging her? Or do you think stepmother needs to stay in her lane? After all, who are you to decide what this daughter needs when you genuinely only see her for less than a fifth of the year? It's one thing to want to be involved more, it's another to want to take control. I think I got used to make a baby by my friend. So I'm 28 male and I live in the US. About a year and a half ago, I matched through Tinder with a woman who lives in Norway. Due to distance, we never met, but we basically became pen pals, and eventually intimate tension built up, even though mostly it was just through texting and occasional video calls. But after a year of chatting with her, we decided to plan an actual visit, and eventually I flew out to Norway for a few days. We hooked up several times, but I used protection, except for the last time. She had asked if we could have unprotected intimacy and if I could finish in her. She claimed she just wanted to share that experience with me and it would make the trip extra special for her. I initially said no, because that's crazy, but she then went on to explain that she will take a plan B, and even if that fails, she would be happy to get an abortion because she doesn't want kids. I still said no, but she literally begged me non-stop the whole trip, and she had paid for everything. And I was feeling guilty because I could see how disappointed she was, and I don't know. On the last day, I just said screw it, and I finished dinner one time, and she was definitely pretty happy about it. She asked if I could do it again, but I kinda came to my senses, no pun intended, and said no. But she stopped pestering me about it, and the rest of the trip was fine. She had previously got the plan B. I literally went to the pharmacy with her, and we bought it together. At the time, she said it was good to keep on hand if the condoms broke. When we got back to the hotel, I went to use the bathroom, and when I came out, the Plan B package was opened, and she claimed to have taken the pill already. Now this raised an eyebrow for me, because I wanted to directly observe her putting the pill in her mouth, but I took her at her word because what else could I do? Anyway, I went home, and our relationship pretty much went back to just texting each other here and there. Skip 4 months, and she posted a picture on her social media showing a baby bump and saying she can't wait until she is finally a mom and she is due to give birth to twins in a few more months. Well, I immediately messaged her and basically asked for an explanation because we agreed even if she got pregnant she would terminate, as I don't want a baby across the seas with a girl I'm not married to. But she responded very defensively and stated that the child wasn't mine, that she got pregnant after I left, and it was another man's baby. I immediately did the math in my head and Googled baby bump pictures to compare with the pic she posted, and it adds up to the time I was in Norway. Now, she would have literally had to get pregnant from another guy right around the exact same time I was there in Norway and finished inside of her. She isn't really the type to sleep around, to be honest. Plus, why would she have another guy's kid when she told me she didn't want kids? So that feels like a lie. She is from a very well-to-do family. Her dad is a prominent surgeon who owns a few hospitals, and I see her whole family on the social media posts congratulating her. Her dad made this super long post about how happy he is to finally have grandkids on the way and how he was worried he never would. I don't see any mention or pictures of any father of the baby. Not planning to do anything with this information. I mean, I'm not going to get into an international custody fight with a bunch of rich doctors, and I'm not really in a position to take care of a kid anyhow, nor do I want to be in the hook for child support. So I'm basically letting the situation rest, and I'm just going to go again and take her at her word that it isn't mine. But really, I'm like 90% sure she used me to get pregnant, and now I may be the father to twins, and I feel pretty gross and used about it.
Like, what the actual hell? So what do we think with this little mystery? Valid skepticism? Or is this guy insanely dramatic? One comment offers some insight that, just to make you aware, baby bumps differ with every woman. There isn't a standard or one-size-fits-all when it comes to bumps. Now, the OP actually responded to this person. He agrees that, look, without a DNA test, there is no way to be for sure, but also, she was super defensive when I asked her, and in 2 years of conversations, she never responded to me like that, and it's understandable I would think it was mine. She made it seem like I was crazy for even thinking that. So yeah, that doesn't really help her case. It's one thing to calmly reassure the stranger all the way across the sea that, hey, it's alright, it's not yours, you don't need to panic about any chasing you up for custody, money, etc. Instead, she plays the abusive boyfriend card, little gaslighting tactics. But hey, others say that, look, I'd be pretty defensive too if some guy I slept with a few times popped into my DMs to accuse me of sperm jacking him, which turns out that's a thing. Now, this is where I feel there's a personal gripe of mine about this. So a lot of comments saying to him simply, hey, don't have unprotected intimacy unless you want a kid. Full stop. Now, okay, that is fair. Very valid. Perfect life advice for everyone. Unless you are 100% to be prepared to be a father, don't go bareback. If you are not prepared to be a father, use a condom, use protection every time. But this is where I want to argue he did use protection. The protection, of course, being the trust in her to get a plan B and use it, as she said she was going to. And said she did. As the OP responds to all this, like, okay, if she wants to get pregnant, then she should have gone to a sperm bank, not lie to a random guy and use him to do something that now makes him technically, if anything happens, legally involved with it all. She's basically thrusted this arguably moral responsibility onto him. She lied to him. Men really need to learn about reproductive science and start being responsible. And again, look, I get this, I really do, and I know I'm a guy here being possibly biased, but I can't help but think of a similar comparison. If a man tells you he's using a condom, you trust him to be using a condom, and during intimacy, he changes his mind and stealths it off, but continues. Is it still the woman's fault for going through it all after trusting him in the first place to be using and staying true to using said protection? Do not get me wrong, I am not standing and doubling down, dying on this hill of an opinion. I can't help but think of it in that regard. I will absolutely agree to the fact that no matter what, you should always use a condom, but I also don't think it's healthy to paint this picture that you should never trust your partner in intimacy. Yes, they were technically just two strangers, etc., but regardless, they were two partners consenting to intimacy, consenting to the grounds of not wanting to have children, and one of them changed their mind without the consideration of the other. Because this is where I kind of feel sorry for this guy. So people ask if he ever wants to actually get to know the kids possibly. He says at first, no I don't want kids in another country, and I'd prefer to pretend they don't exist and the situation never happened. Look, I just feel sick thinking about it. But then straight to an edit, look, to be honest, I'm just so freaking mad right now, but if they are really my kids, I'd probably want to get to know them. So hooray, slight mental crisis developed. Woo! Anyway, I leave all those thoughts with you. My very first client turned out to be a real creep. So I, a 23 male, am a broke college student, and I thought I could start a handyman business and make some money while I'm in college. I posted an ad on Craigslist advertising my skills, construction-related skills. Anyhow, a guy wanted me to fix his cash register and stereo. I drive over there and fix the cash register, turned out to be a loose spring, and while I'm there, he wants me to help him rewind his VHS tape. Quote, I can't see the rewind button. I push the rewind, and it is guy-on-guy vintage gay poon, but in reverse. So I figured it was just an accident, and I chatted for a few minutes and said I would take the stereo home and see if I could fix it. But I got paid for the cash register and left. When I got home, I checked my email and found this. Hope you weren't insulted by the VHS film I turned on. I had forgot I even had it as I threw my whole library from our video store away. I really get turned on by large morning wood like that. Anyway, feel free to come over any time. I think I could make it worth your while. Followed by this. I am really anxious to see you again. Whenever you want to come over, late afternoons or around this time are always good. Discreet and $40 for maybe 20 minutes or so. Followed by, I would really like to go down on you and I swallow. Want no reciprocation. You won't be sorry. I am drug and disease free. And when I don't respond, interested? At this point, I wasn't sure what to respond with. Like, I've got to return the stereo too. I'm not going to fix it, but I'm so glad I used my Google Voice number, but very sorry that I had told him where I lived when I introduced myself. I decided to park my car far away from my dorm, The dorm is a converted motel. My girlfriend thought it was funny and said, well, now you know why I don't like going outside at night. And straight to an update. So I drove over to his house early in the morning, dropped off the stereo, and sprinted back to my car and hightailed it out of there. And then I responded after I left with this. Hi, my bad, I wasn't aware of what you were getting at with your previous question. However, I'm going to stick with the services I posted in the ad. I returned the radio to your garage. I left it in a bag so it wouldn't get damaged by the rain, and I don't wish to do any further business with you. Best of luck to you, Dan. I, 27 male, received this text from my 23 female girlfriend. How should I respond? Is our relationship over? Should I give her space or fight for her? So I received this long text from my girlfriend, and I don't even know what to say or do. It says, Dear OP, it is my fault. My fault for not being stronger. My fault for not having the knowledge and experience and being too naive to see what was happening. I was engaged, and you pursued me, and I allowed it to happen, and that is my fault. 100% my fault. You've taught me many things, and for that, I have to thank you. You are my best friend. I trusted you deeply. This is not your fault, but I want you to know that the actions we chose together have caused me pain. Pain so deep that I don't know who I am anymore. I don't want you to blame yourself because I know that it is entirely my fault. I fell in love with you, but I know that the man I want to marry one day would have waited for me, or he would have had so much respect for me that he would have distanced himself so that he wouldn't tempt me. The man I want to marry would never even risk causing me pain, and if he saw that he was causing me pain, no matter how hard for him, he would have stopped it all because he couldn't stand seeing me hurt, even if I begged him to come back. In these last few months, I have completely lost myself. I cannot look in the mirror and recognize myself anymore. I am ashamed, depressed, and disgusted at the person I have become. I lost my best friend in the process. The man that I was going to marry, I caused him pain. I can never forgive myself for that. I have been so messed up that I have been ill since November last year. So I'll need that... So ill that I needed surgery to fix the issues I was having. I changed the course of my life the same week I had surgery. I let the man I love go, and I let you in. It is my fault, but I know that I was weak. It truly feels as if I woke up from a dream. It feels as if I wasn't alive this last week during recovery, and now I can finally breathe again. I see the mess that I have made, and I am nauseated that I have allowed myself to get to this point. You showed me what love can be like. I have never been treated the way that you have treated me, and for that I thank you. You showed me the way that life can be and how I can be treated, but you also came on hard at a time you knew I was most fragile. It is my fault, and I know that, but it still hurts that you didn't allow me to heal. You didn't allow me to live with the decisions I have made. I need to find myself again. I need to be able to look in the mirror again. I needed time, and I think you knew that too. I am here in the city we live in to become a dentist. I can't lose sight of that. This matters more to me than anything in the world, and now I can't even do my lectures. We owe it to the study group to not change our dynamic. We can't be weird with each other. I don't want to lose our friendship. I need time. I hope you understand. Your girlfriend's name.
Did parts of that leave you puzzled? What happened through their relationship that causes the partner to write such a monologue? Blaming herself, but also blaming him for letting her do it? Breaking her best friend's heart, who she was going to marry? Also, what's with this community-esque vibes of,
We owe it to the study group not to change our dynamic.
I'll only respect that as someone who hates having to be involved in other people's drama when they kind of shove it into the social group like that. Props to her for not wanting to do that to her study friends. Now, those not caring to pry further are confident to just tell this guy to move on, don't fight for her. This is clearly a very confident decision of hers. From what we can tell, she regrets being with you and wants to focus on her career now. Best respect that. But OP, clearly still having a sense of hopeless romanticism in there, inspires others to theorize that this woman is an attention seeker. She's likely dying for you to go tell her you love her madly. Then she can storm around and blame you for her mistakes of cheating, and then she can make passionate love to you. Then she can wake up in the morning and blame you again. Do you think that's a valid theory here? They are young adults. It is rather dramatic for in this generation to be writing such a somewhat dramatic monologue of the situation. It's like she was doing a creative writing exercise of just saying, hey, I feel like you only chased me because I was losing interest in my partner at the time, but also I allowed you to do that, so I'm also at fault here. I realize now I wasn't chasing you because I was actually keen on you. I was chasing on you because you were a new shiny thing. And I think at this moment in time, it's best I focus on my studying. I hope we can just remain friends. I'm sorry to have dragged you along like this. But instead, she implies she got so stressed out she had to have surgery. As this comment continues to say, the whole stress and surgery issue has nothing to do with the relationship. According to the timeline, she had the surgery before you started your romance with her. So how is she saying you stressed her out enough to have surgery? Yeah, timeline is confusing, so OP explains. Here's the timeline. Met her while she was engaged. We both confessed we had feelings for each other. We were a little intimate, no actual boinkin. But in December, she broke off her engagement. Also, at the time, she was sick. Early January, we started dating, and she had surgery for a real problem at the same time. She recovered last week, and now this letter. So what do you think? This has actually been shared on Am I the Devil, where posts are shared to when they think the people posting it are the a-hole. So do you think this guy is the a-hole in the situation? Clearly, the woman regrets this whole thing, that's for sure. But is he really in the wrong here himself? I'm all for shaming people who go after people who are in relationships, but he didn't force her to leave her original partner. I don't know, this one just feels a bit sketchy to be blaming the guy for in this situation. But let me know what you think.
Anyway, friends, that's where all the random stories end. Thank you, as always, for watching. Love your faith. It's currently Friday for me, so you know what? You don't have to drink water this time. I'll let it pass. Anyway, you be good. Love your face. Bye-bye.